Hey everyone, and welcome to the NintendoFuse Podcast. This is episode 272, and on this episode, we're going to be talking all about the Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. We're also going to be talking about what we have been playing beyond Zelda, if there was anything, and also about the most recent Nintendo-related news. And of course, I'm not just here by myself. I am joined by Barry. Hey Barry, how's it going?
Hey, Steve. Always a pleasure.
And also joined by Greg. Hey Greg, how are you?
Doing good. Great to be here.
And a returning guest, and some of you might know him from NintendoFuse. Jared is joining us. Hey, Jared, how are you?
Good to be here. Happy to be back.
Awesome. Yeah, so Jared has recently went to the Nintendo store as the Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom launch and everything, and we'll get some stories from him on all the people he met and all the different activities that were going on there. But before we jump into any of that, we just want to remind you to subscribe and also follow us on Twitter. We're at NintendoFuse. We have a Discord as well. All those links and things are going to be in the show notes. And we just love for you guys to join us over there. And if you have been tuning in for a long time, but you've not shared it with another Nintendo fan out there, please be sure to do that as well. But let's kick it off right away because I don't want to mess around because we've got a lot of Zelda to talk about tonight. But Barry, or actually, let's put it first to Jared. Jared, have you been playing anything but Tears of the Kingdom?
Well, Tears of the Kingdom has definitely taken over my life. But aside from that, I usually keep up with Pokemon Go, Mario Kart Tour, and the Pikmin mobile game, the Pikmin Bloom. But other than that, I haven't really been playing too much outside of maybe a little bit of Smash Brothers and a little bit of Splatoon when they had the Zelda event a few weeks ago.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. I wish I had been, opening up those games. Those are games that I really love, and Zelda and Rocket League have taken over my life. So eventually, maybe I'll get back to like Smash Brothers or something. But Greg, how about you?
Mostly the normal stuff for me, like Fire Emblem Heroes and the Roblox with like my daughter and stuff, and my auto grinding I have going on there. And then I did play a few rounds of Among Us with my daughter. She was really interested to play it again, so it was nice to actually see her warm up her Switch once in a while. And then, of course, Tears of the Kingdom. But we'll be diving into a lot more of that in a little while. So
Cool.
just enjoying the time so far. That's what's important.
Nice. Barry, been up to anything other than Zelda?
Pokemon Unite, still doing that daily, which has gotten significantly harder to do since Zelda because I had to pull myself away. But I went and did some before Zelda launched. I did go back to Trinity Trigger to try to do some of those post-game quests, and they involved fighting really tough enemies. And I realized very quickly the biggest flaw in that game is that it is designed with multiplayer in mind, with 3 people actively playing. So when you're playing with one person, the other 2 NPCs are just getting killed, and you only have up to 10 healing items. So you waste them raising your NPCs just for them to die again. And it's just really frustrating because I couldn't complete it because the NPCs are not very smart. And I didn't have anybody to jump in with me, so I said, "Screw it! I'm not doing the post-game challenges. At least I did the game." And then, of course, on the Switch, Tears of the Kingdom, once it launched, I really can't put that game down. I'm scared for tomorrow when it stops saying played first 10 days ago because I'm really scared of that number that's going to appear. On PC, I'm still playing 14. Still doing static stuff, which again was hard for me to do even with my friends just because I just wanted to play Tears. And mobile Mario Kart Tour. And even that's been slacking just because of Tears.
Nice. Looks like Jakester's in the chat and says been playing 2 games that aren't Zelda. Majora's Mask, or actually he's been playing Zelda games, but not Tears of the Kingdom. So Majora's Mask 3D and Twilight Princess HD, but also Xenoblade Chronicles 3 and Pikmin Bloom. And also got Smoke and Joe 12 in the chat as well as first time catching us live. So welcome Thanks so much for joining us. Please let us know what you've been playing and anything that we talk about tonight. Anybody that's in the live chat, please let us know what your thoughts are about all those news stories, Zelda, and everything else. We would love to interact with you guys and read your comments as much as we can throughout the live show. For me, I have been playing, of course, Tears of the Kingdom and Rocket League. I also played a game called Strayed Lights. They came out about a month ago, and I don't really know how to explain it. I really didn't know what I was getting into. It's a review game that I got a code for from the developers or publishers of the game, and it looks cool. It's this 3D action game, I guess, but you're walking through at the very beginning of the game. You're like this glowing baby, kind of like young child of light, basically, and then you're like walking through, and it's all blurry, and then you eventually be able to get to walk, and then you can make it to this end of the path, and there's a reflection on the other side of this wall of like ice or something, and then all of a sudden you grow up and now you're older, and so does the reflection, but now the reflection's not mirroring you, and it turns into some gigantic evil thing that attacks you. And then you go into this tutorial as you face it, like learning all the different combat moves, and then after you beat it, then you move into the game itself, but it's still confusing of like where to go and what to do. So it's very kind of open and like figure it out on your own kind of game. But the combat is all about parrying. Like you can attack, but it's really about parrying, but also making sure that you do it at the right color. So if the enemy is blue, you need to match the same color. So you can change your color of your character, match the color, and then parry their attack. And as you parry, you get more energy built up, and then you can basically issue like a final blow in the end. And then you collect some points or something, and then you move on to the next. And that's the game so far. It's kind of confusing on where to go, but the combat is interesting. It's also a little flighty in terms of controls, like jumping, especially like you're trying to jump on something, like especially going from a game like Tears of the Kingdom, which is like so precise and where you jump and how you can climb and all that stuff. And then you go to that and you're like, I'm just kind of flying around and floating away. And sometimes you get on an edge that you can't make it up again. And then all of a sudden you're falling to your death. And so it's a really pretty game, and I love the concept behind it, but I'm not sure if I can recommend it right now. But it's definitely interesting. You should definitely check out videos, and maybe eventually I'll post a like a little let's play or something like that on our YouTube channel, so you guys can see a little bit more. But it's really interesting for sure. Looks like Jakester also said he's currently on the road to the second dungeon in Majora's Mask, and currently Link Between Worlds is his favorite, but depending on how he feels about Twilight Princess or Majora's Mask when he finishes them, there's a chance that both of them could be in his top 5. So he's enjoying them a lot right now. That's cool. So, Jared, you had an opportunity to check out the Tears of the Kingdom launch party at the Nintendo store in New York. So I'd love to just give you a chance to like tell us about the experience. I know you were there for multiple days and camped out and all this other stuff, and you get to see a lot of people and a lot of things going on. So yeah, the floor is yours. Tell us about your experience.
Yeah, it was definitely a trip. Like, this is probably my 5th time going to Nintendo store kind of overnight for some type of launch. And this was definitely a really cool one. I went down there, pretty much Wednesday evening, and I didn't end up staying the whole night because my friend that was with me, she wasn't feeling well, so we ended up coming back home, and we went back out later the next day, and it was really fun. It's a really cool experience. I highly recommend giving it a shot if you're really dedicated to some type of franchise, because you get to meet a lot of really cool people, including other YouTubers. I know one guy I was chatting with, Alex CND, he goes to a bunch of these. He got pretty famous. I think he was like one of the first people who bought a Switch when that launched. And there was these really cool Canadian guys. I forget their names. One was like Toasty or something like that. But it was definitely a really fun trip. And there was like one story that I ended up missing out on. but there's a bunch of like like kind of higher ups in Nintendo there, like Doug Bowser and Bill Trinan, and then I heard from one of my friends that I made when I was there uh, on Wednesday night, like right after I left. Apparently, like Doug Bowser just like was there, looking out the window, saw all these people waiting, and just brought everybody pretzels, like just warm pretzels from wherever.
That's awesome.
So that was funny, and I was kind of bummed missing out on that. But the next day, I was there, up and ready, rearing to go, and it was pretty much just waiting out throughout the day, occasionally going into the store, seeing what's going on there. And like you saw in some of these pictures, I actually met Doug Bowser and Bill Trinan, and I had them sign my. I made this slab that's supposed to look like the one from GameStop as a pre-order bonus, but I got impatient, and I have a laser cutter, so I was like, I'll make my own, and they were gracious enough to sign it. So that was really fun going up there to see them while they're setting up, and you see a whole bunch of other people just standing there trying to get autographs, pictures, and at one point everybody's saying like, "Oh, I love you, Doug," to try to get like his attention, and all you see is him laughing, and then I just yelled out like, "Oh, I love you, Bill," and he got a really good chuckle out of that. So he actually pulled me aside to take a photo and sign my plaque, and it was really cool. I did miss out on meeting Fujibayashi and Aonuma, who were there later in that night when they were doing the Treehouse live. But it was still a really cool trip just to see everybody there, get a bunch of these really cool exclusive goodies from Nintendo, and really just have a great time with a bunch of people who love the series and love the games. But yeah.
That's so cool. And I was wondering how you got that, because I saw the photo you posted online and I was like, how'd he get that wood plaque thing already? I didn't realize you made it. So it doesn't surprise me that you made it, knowing all the other stuff you make. But that's so cool. I was like, that's how you did it. You made it yourself.
Yeah, as soon as they like announced it, a lot of people didn't really like it. I was like, "Oh, that's pretty cool," and I kind of wanted something like early on. I was like, "Oh, this would be nice to make like good project." So I made it, and then the second day when we were there, I one of my friends was gonna meet up with us. Like, you know what? I heard Doug Bowser was there last night. You're like, let me take the risk, have my friend bring it over, and I lucked out seeing Bill and Doug getting that signed, hoping to get Fujibayashi and Numa, but missed out on them. But still, kind of just like two really cool people. They were super nice, and just getting something like that to treasure in my collection.
Yeah, that's really cool. Cool. Greg, Barry, do you guys have any questions for Jared?
I mean, that's awesome that you did that. I know you usually do those things, and I wish I had the stamina to hop the train and do it, because I could do it too. I got to meet Eiji Aonuma at New York Comic Con one year, but I didn't get that personal thing. So I'm really jealous of your personal, story that you have. That's awesome. But no, like, did they have the game like were people able to play it early? Like, did they have kiosks and stuff there, or just
No,
the
they
trailer?
actually about I want to say halfway through Wednesday, they closed down the whole upper section. Well, half of the upper section where they normally have the demo kiosks, just to kind of start setting things up because they had to bring in the giant Link statue, and kind of set up a bunch of the audio equipment for the Treehouse Live because that's where they were doing most of the broadcasting. So they closed down that. There was nothing you could really see that was related to Tears of the Kingdom until they started putting things up and started getting darker, so you could kind of see some of the lights and some of the stuff that they had going on. But they had a lot of really cool merch there. I ended up buying this really cool Tears of the Kingdom shirt that I found out later that glue in the dark, which was awesome. And they had this beautiful mug that I bought. I have it over here. Uh, this like really handmade mug with the logo on here. Well, one of the logos, and it was all really really cool. And they had tons of the collector editions for pretty much anyone who would want one. But yeah, they had so much really cool things prepped there, and a lot of the giveaways they had for anyone who bought stuff there was really really cool.
That's awesome.
See, Barry, they do make more than 5 of those.
You know what? Surprisingly, I've seen the collector's edition go up for for order and in stock at a lot of places. Like, it is not super rare, and that to me means they're learning from Metroid Prime Remastered. They're actually learning from Xenoblade 3, which is good. Everybody who wants one should be able to get one at MSRP. Period.
Mhm.
That's where if they switch to
Agreed.
the open pre-order and just let people order what they want, it would deter scalpers and it would allow people to get the games they want. And they print enough. And any extra they could just send to Nintendo New York or whatever, or some to GameStop or whatever, for the people who didn't order online. It's simple. And it's crowd pleasing. I haven't seen people fight over the collector's edition. They were like, I went to GameStop and I had it and I got it. And I'm like, good, that's a feel good story. That's a story I want to hear. I want you to enjoy it. I want everyone to enjoy. I hate the stories where it's like I tried to get it and I couldn't get it and I had to buy it on eBay for $350 and begrudgingly because I really want the steel book. And it's like, well, thanks, Nintendo. You just screwed that person out of double the money.
Yeah.
But anyways, Jared, did you like what they like was like Bill and like Doug kind of selecting people at random, or were they like people that were really like shouting like getting selected to go up and like be with like next to them? Like how did that
Well,
process kind of work?
at the time they were like that. Most of the people met them. They were kind of just like prepping for the event. So like they had the whole like demo section blocked off, kind of prepping things up, but you could obviously see through because it just had like some ropes up in the way. So people were allowed to like shop and see what's going on and everything like that. They didn't really seem to deter anyone away from like taking photos of what's going on. And it was just kind of like luck of the draw that you just kind of saw them while they were there, and they just happened to be out. And I think I didn't see it personally, but a few times I heard that they came outside, kind of greeted some of the people online, said hello, took photos, things like that. So they were super nice about it. They had a lot going on, a lot to do, so they weren't super approachable. But if you got lucky, they were really kind and were willing to do stuff for you.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, I've been fortunate enough to be at the Nintendo store a few times, but never for anything that big. I think there was I think I was there. Oh, some system came out and I was able to buy it when it dropped, but I think it was like another version of a system or something like that. It wasn't like the first Switch or the first, Wii U or something like that.
Mm.
But it was pretty cool to be there. It was somewhere around it was around one of the times when I was there for Thanksgiving, and I stood in line and waited for it. But it wasn't like you had this huge event and everything. That was just a long line that I waited in, with no one famous there. So I'm jealous that you actually got this cool event to experience and everything. It's a lot
Yeah.
cooler than me standing in line in the cold and just waiting for a game or a system.
It was pretty nerve-wracking because the last few times, due to the pandemic and everything, they started to do like a ticketing system, and they kind of had like I think 3 time slots. So it's either a midnight or 1 a.m. or a 10 a.m. or 11. I don't remember, but I know everyone who like I was going with and tons of other people. As soon as the tickets dropped, the the website went down immediately because either people were scalping or there was problems with the website. And I think it was like me and a group of my friends that joined me. I think we were just like clicking refresh for like probably about 2 3 hours straight just to try to get a ticket. And even then, I was only lucky enough to get a 1 a.m., which was ahead of a lot of people when I got there, surprisingly. So
Nice.
You mean
That's cool.
Nintendo's site crashed when trying to do something?
yeah,
No, that never happens.
I thought they figured out like the internet and servers and all that stuff.
No,
No.
Nintendo's still behind. It's unbelievable. I think Nintendo somehow just doesn't seem to understand how many fans they really have and how many people love their products. And they're still somehow blind, like, oh, we made this game called Zelda. Maybe 50 people might play it.
this was
Yeah.
definitely one of those games that geared towards a lot of collectors right from the get-go because they had the collector's edition, which was kind of difficult to get for a lot of people. And if you weren't really following it, there was like tons upon tons of pre-order bonuses throughout the US and the
Mhm.
rest of the world. It was insane. Like I know because I'm very big in the community that people bought like 10, 15 copies of the game just to get a tons of these pre-order bonuses, myself included. Not nearly as many, but yeah, there was so many pre-order bonuses, and a lot of people were just like, why don't you just have all these things somewhere instead of having like this and this in like Europe, this and this in Japan. Like we had everything from like luggage tags to silverware, posters, banners, coins, medals. It was really nuts. Like they even had like in Japan a whole Kuji thing, which was basically a lottery system for getting a bunch of these Zelda related items, and even those are selling for tons of money. And they had so many really cool things. I know I bought one of them. Let's see if I could grab it right here. One of the best items that I wish they sold at Nintendo Store in general, with like a special edition, was the Master Sword right here.
That's cool.
And like even this whole thing lights up and everything. And this was like the biggest prize you get from the Kuji in Japan, but it was only in Japan. So you had tons of people either buying hundreds of tickets or buying certain items for hundreds of dollars.
Wow.
So it's crazy.
The reason that happens, though, it's actually not Nintendo's fault. It's all the different retailers themselves wanting to do something because they want your pre-order.
Yeah.
Like even the thing at Walmart, they put it up for like I think 5,000 or 3,000 for the gold banner, and it sold out so quickly that they were like, "Oh crap, let's put up another one and try and get more sales because why lose money?" And it's ridiculous, and everybody wants a piece of that pie. And when it's a big game, that's what's going to happen. So it's not really Nintendo; it's Nintendo approving it all. But it's not like Nintendo's going, Target, you're going to get a fanny pack, and then GameStop, you're going to get a block of wood. It's whatever they come up and present to them, pretty much.
It was really tough on me, like, because I had to go coming back at like, I don't know, 4 a.m. after the launch, going home, sleeping for like a couple hours, and then driving out to like a Best Buy and a Target and a Walmart just to pick up other pre-orders and GameStop and all that, just to get everything, all the other copies I owned. So it was nuts.
Making the rounds instead of actually playing the game.
Yeah, I didn't get to play the game till like late at night that day.
That's like the amiibo craze when they used to have like one at GameStop, one at Target, like that was making the rounds that morning. Got to go here, pick up this, and here and pick up that one.
Yeah, they did that again with a re-release.
Yeah, because why not? It's retailers again. A lot of it is they fund it. You know, if it's like, oh, this amiibo is exclusive to the store, it's like they're paying some of the production to get that. So it's I can't fault them for it. I would do the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, let's talk about this game, Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom, which is formerly known as the Breath of the Wild 2 sequel, or the sequel to Breath of the Wild, came out just barely after our last podcast on that Friday. And for me, talking about the release, actually, I pre-ordered it at Walmart, the second round, and ended up getting the black version of the banner, and thought that was cool and everything. And then I realized that I had inadvertently scheduled a airplane ticket on Friday, and didn't even think about what day I was scheduling to fly. And I was going to be like, the package was going to arrive at my house after I was already at the airport. And so I was like, well, that's unacceptable. I can't do that. I need to play this game while I'm traveling. And so I went back and ended up finding out our GameStop was doing, well, I guess what would normally be a midnight launch, but because we are in Mountain Time, they launch it at Eastern Time midnight. And so it was a 10 o'clock launch, which was great because
which is stupid and unfair.
Well, it's the same time as you.
Yeah, but it's 10 o'clock. You have 2 hours before midnight.
That is true. But so I got it, and I ended up getting the wood plaque thing and everything too, which is cool. I was like, I didn't realize that they still have those. I thought they were gone. And so I ended up with 2 pre-order bonuses. So far from what you guys got, but still I ended up with 2 of them. And met a friend there, which was really cool and everything. Got the game, but there was a lot of things that I I still had to do before I traveled. And so I couldn't play it that night as much as I really wanted to, because I still had, a couple hours before I would normally go to sleep, around midnight. And so I had to wait the next day. I was like, you know what? I'll play it on the plane. Be great. And that plane was so turbulent because of all the storms going across the country that there was I played for about like 10 minutes and I was about ready to throw up. I was like, I can't do this. And so I put it down. And then the same thing with my second leg of the flight. It was delayed a lot and turbulence and all this other stuff. So I finally, like when I landed, like the next day, I had some free time, and so I was able to play it like later on Saturday. But I was bummed because like when the first game came out, I played it immediately as soon as I got it, and stayed up way too late that night. But I had intentions to do that this time, but everything just prevented me from getting it. But I ended up with 2 pre-order bonuses, so that's kind of cool, and just returned the game to GameStop, and they were really happy that I was returning it because they have a whole list of people that are waiting to buy the game. And so I was able to make someone happy. And yeah, so I did check eBay though. It was like, am I going to be able to scalp this thing? But no, you can't really. Not the original, like the basic copy of the game. Not that I encourage that, but but I looked and I returned it and made someone happy. So, Greg, what was your experience when you got Tears of the Kingdom?
So mine's going to be the most downplayed one because it was just like, Nintendo releases these eShop vouchers. You can buy 2 for $100. I'm like, okay, I want Tears of the Kingdom. I don't want to have to pay $70, or I have to want to go look for it on launch day or reserve or pre-order and have to wait until like the morning when I'm like during work hours to just pick up the game. So I'll be like, all right, I'll just hit the little button just to have it download. And then I was like, okay, launch time comes around, and unfortunately I had like a busy Friday or like Thursday late night, because by me it would have been 11 when it like finally enabled to be played. But I wasn't even really thinking at that night for some reason. And then like Friday was just like a busy normal work day, and then it was like Saturday. I'm like, all right, let's open up this bad guy, and it was just hit play, boom, done. Like just got to sit there and play a good few hours and had a lot of fun there. And then it pretty much just came down to like a super like stressful week, and then I didn't really play it for like 3 or 4 days, and then finally these last few days I've been probably putting in like several hours every day now, so it's been a lot of fun going out from here. So yeah, the launch day was nothing for me because it was just like, okay, it's just downloaded and ready to go.
Yeah.
But I didn't really care too much about the pre-order bonuses. I mean, I do consider myself to be a pretty big Zelda fan in general because I have all the games and everything, but I didn't think it was necessary to just have to go out and track down some of these things, and some of them didn't even seem like the most appealing. I mean, I haven't really used for like luggage tags, and like the wood thing, like my dad can do like a laser engrave if I really wanted him to do it. So it's like a lot of that stuff wasn't like something I had to spend extra time and money in tracking down where to get.
Yeah. So Barry, after you tracked down all your pre-order bonuses and everything as well, did you get much time to play it that night, or did you have to wait?
Yeah, I was realizing afterwards. I pre-ordered it, Best Buy and Walmart and all that stuff, and I was like, oh man, like when am I gonna get it? And I really want to play it as soon as possible. And I had the collector's edition pre-order from GameStop because it was only online. And I contacted my friend who works at GameStop, and I said, "What's going on?" Like, we're doing a midnight launch. I said, "You know what? I'll get the standard edition just so I could play." So I ordered that, and he's like, "Well, we were actually getting some collector's editions." So I was able to switch mine to a collector's edition. I said, "Screw it, I'll grab that. That's the one I want to open." So they did a midnight launch party. So I went there around 10 to 10:30 or so. They were doing Zelda trivia, and people were talking. And I haven't done a midnight launch in forever, so it was really good just to talk to other Zelda
Did
fans.
you win a sleeve? That's what they were giving away at ours.
The sleeve was gone by the time I got there. I got the scarf. They had a scarf as well. I didn't get the sleeve.
That scarf is actually extremely hard to find, so it's even better than a
Really?
sleeve in a lot of people's
I had not
finds.
heard about this. All
Yeah.
they had was posters and sleeves at ours.
What's funny is I actually got to sleep. They were doing the trivia, and I wasn't really paying attention. And I was ringing up. I was paying, and the question was, because music was such a big part of Zelda. What was the first ever instrument? And people are ocarina and flute and blah, blah, and I just like mumbled. I'm like, the recorder. And he's like, yeah, here you go. I'm like, okay, cool. Like like because I remember it from playing Zelda 1 as a kid. So I was like, oh yeah, that's funny. So I got that. They were giving away, when they ran out of that stuff, they were giving away like pre-order bonuses for other games that they had tons of, like the Metroid Dread pins and the Mario Golf pins, and for spoken cards and a bunch of other stuff, Horizon lanyards, and like pick just take. They were clearing their drawer out.
Wow.
It was a fun event, and I got the game at midnight, got out of there, came home, put it in, downloaded the day one update, because of course there's a day one, and I stayed up probably to about 2 o'clock, and I was like, I have to put this down now or I will not sleep. And then I proceeded to be sucked in, and thankfully my wife enjoys watching me play. So it's like we didn't really watch a lot of our shows and do a lot of things. It's been puppies, spend time with her, Zelda, and like that's about it. And eat. And of course the next day on Saturday, so I got a full day with Friday, and Saturday we had our baby queue. So we had all our friends over, and we had a set up. So I didn't play really at all Saturday, because we had to set up for a party, and then everyone over, and everyone was there till like 10:30 at night, which was wonderful, and it was great to see. And of course we were all talking Zelda, but it was, none of us were playing it at that time, so I lost a day there, but it was worth it. But it was funny, like I didn't even think about it when we scheduled that it was literally going to be the day after Zelda. I'm like, oh, what did I do to
Yeah.
myself? Why couldn't it have been the week
Yeah.
before?
Same with
But
my trip. I'm like, why did I
yeah.
do that?
But no, I'm glad I did the midnight. I'm glad I was able to experience that with all those other Zelda fans, and it's just been so long since there's been a midnight event. Like I would love to do like a Xenoblade one, but I know that the fan base isn't there yet, and I'd love to do a Trails of, but again, the fan base isn't the same. So to have that again, it was just really cool. Great experience.
That's cool. So Jared, after you get all this different events, behind you, you got all your different copies of the game and everything. You finally get to settle down and actually play it. How have you played it? Like pretty much every day? Like are you like totally drawn into it now?
Yeah, like the first 2 days after I got it, I was pretty much like on and off playing just because I was exhausted from being there. But I've been playing a lot. I got to a point where I think I'm close to the end of the main story. I missed a lot of like side stuff. One of the things I've noticed is like I'll talk to a couple of friends and like, oh, well, I got this and this. I'm like, oh, I haven't even experienced that yet. So there's so much that I feel like I haven't seen yet, even though I've like played for at least like 15, 20 hours.
Yeah. So at this point, if you are listening, like just a heads up, we are going to probably have some light spoilers. We may end up accidentally dropping some others just ahead. We want to warn you ahead of time because of what Jared just said. Like the open nature of this game, like we probably all four of us have had a completely different experience with this game, which is really cool. But also it's like I don't know how to talk about it exactly because like I don't know which path you took, and I don't know which path you took, and I took a completely different path. Like so for me, I'm still, I think, very early. I know that I'm very early in the game because similar to the last or the Pokemon game, I have totally got lost in the open world and I have forgotten about the main quest. I was like, I'm going to go check out this shrine. Oh, there's a shrine over there. I'm going to go check that out too. I wonder where that mountain goes to. I'm going to climb up there. All of a sudden, like I'm spending hours and hours on this. And I was like, oh, right. I was supposed to go find Zelda, wasn't I? Yeah, let's get back on that. So like I am totally getting sucked into the open world for sure. So like I'm very, very far from where you are, Jared, at the end. But I have experienced some things, and I know that I've experienced some things that I was supposed to experience later. And I've gotten to some shrines that I cannot beat because I don't have certain things. And then I've gotten to a certain area that is, let's just say, down below. And yeah, I was not supposed to be there when I got there. I still had only three or four hearts at that point. I was not supposed to be in that place at that time. But it's been so cool just to be able to just freely explore and check it out. And I think for me, like it's cool to revisit there, but it's so different. And so, like, let's just talk about it in general, like the experience so far. What do you think, Greg? Are you enjoying your experience so far? And what do you think?
Oh, I'm 100% enjoying it. This is like I probably took a similar route that you did, Steve, because I hit like the main surface area, and then like I was nowhere near like where I needed to go. My brother's telling me he already has the paraglider. I'm like, well, I'm already on the surface. Wasn't I supposed to get that before even landing on the surface? And then so then I was doing like some shrines and then doing some other things and finding other things. Like it was just a lot of fun, just kind of exploring around. And then I was like, how the hell do I get this damn paraglider? Like I can't figure it out. Like, is there any indication of where I'm supposed to go? Then I was just kind of like nosing around, and then I somehow found like the area I was supposed to be, and then I was like, all right, oh wow, here's how you can progress the main story a little bit, and then so yeah, then I ended up getting the paraglider, and then now I'm like having way too much fun with it because now I discovered the Great Plateau area. I mean, that's not a huge spoiler there because that was from the first game. So it was like, well, I definitely need to go up there. There's lots of things I need to see for myself. What's different up there? So pretty much I spent a good like 8 hours like just combing through the entire Great Plateau area and then even going down like the different chasms and exploring all down there too. So that's just been a lot of fun just going around and just doing my own thing. Like I didn't even go towards any of the main quest stuff to do any of the 4 areas yet. I mean, they're marked on the map, but I just haven't really been that intrigued to go start one of those yet.
Yeah, yeah. Jared, I know you're probably close to the end. What's your experience been like so far?
I've been really enjoying it. One thing that I've kind of like really gone into is I'm really big when it comes to like the lore of Zelda. So there was so many hidden things in Breath of the Wild. I was like, oh, I wonder what this kind of means on a deeper aspect of it. So kind of coming back into the world with that knowledge, I'm like, oh, I wonder if anything changed with this, and this, or like be going to all these different areas that kind of like stood out to me in one game. I'm like, oh, this has changed, or this does this now, and it's like, oh, this is awesome, and just kind of gets a lot deeper meaning to it. One thing that I definitely noticed as a big difference between this and Breath of the Wild is I feel like I'm playing closer to a Dark Souls game than how I was in Breath of the Wild, because a lot of the monsters that I've run into, even early on, have been really kicking my butt in comparison to how they were in the last game. Like even after getting like 10 hearts, I've still gotten my butt kicked by like some would normally be some pretty basic monsters at times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So like even when things amp up, it's just one shot sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Just on the same level as Steve, only still having 4 heart containers, and I ran into some like black bokoblins, and they like one shot me, and it's like, well, that's not any fun. Like that sucks.
Glad
Then
this
like
isn't real
the
life. Yeah.
yeah, then as soon as like the red ones, like they still like only knock off like 1 or 1.5 or 2 or something around there, and it's like okay, I can at least take a few hits, but I'm like constantly like cooking and preparing more meals, or even just flat out dying. Like I never died this much like in Breath of the Wild. I feel like at least at this point in the game,
Yeah.
but I also feel like I was a lot more eager to run in Breath of the Wild because like those guardians really had scared the living pants off me. Like, every time I heard that threatening music and that big red laser beam shooting right down the line, I'm like, oh crap, I have to run as fast as I can to get out of here.
Yep. That's so true. That's so true. Barry, have you experienced the same thing?
Yeah, so I've noticed several differences in the game, and like you, I've all been absorbed. I think the first, within by Sunday, I'll say, I had actually done 2 of the 4 objectives. I was like, wow, I'm moving at a good clip. And then I'm like, well, let me, you know, the next day or two, I'll get the third one done. And I didn't get the third one done until I think Saturday. and it wasn't because I wasn't playing. It's because I was doing everything else. I just got absorbed. I'm like, how did 10 hours go by? And I feel like I've done nothing in this game, but I've done a ton in this game. And it's been exciting and exhilarating at the same time, frustrating because I want to do this, but I've got like 100 things. And my wife now calls it squirrel the game because I'm going to go to objective A. And before you even get to A, you have 100 things you found in the way. Ooh, Korok here. Ooh, shrine here. Ooh, cavern here. And that leads to a new place. And before you know it, 3-4 hours have gone by, and you still never went to objective A. But it wasn't that you were dilly dallying; you were actually accomplishing things because there's so much to this game. So it's just funny to see, and we're seeing like how long before I actually accomplish what I'm trying to do, and how many other distractions. And that's only been amplified since I got an item that helps with Korok finding, which was in Breath of the Wild as well. But like you, with the difficulty, I have found it's been more difficult. I have found that and I think the difficulty is to accommodate the fusing because the weapons you can make are so much stronger. But I have found that rupees are insanely hard to get in this game. Like money, I felt was never an issue in Breath of the Wild, and in this game, money is, oh my god, hard to get. And like you could farm like minerals and stuff, but even those you need to upgrade, and upgrading costs a lot of money, and that helps you survive, but you need the money to upgrade plus the minerals. And like at first it's like 10 rupees and then 30 rupees, not bad, and then it's 200, and I'm like, whoa, per piece, 200. That's like buying a house. What am I talking about here? And there's more sets, there's more armor sets now. So like in Breath of the Wild, I upgraded all the armor sets except for the star fragment ones, because after a while I said screw getting farming star fragments. Like I don't need to do it anymore. But in this game, like there's so many more sets on top of all the previous sets return. At least all the ones I've seen have returned, and then to upgrade them at 200, and that's only to stage 3. I think I don't know what stage 4 is. Because I don't have anything at stage 3 because 200 is expensive. There's armor pieces that are thousands of rupees that I just haven't bought because I just don't have the money. And I'm like, why is money so hard to get in this game? I feel like they did something to change the economy, and I hate it. Like
Inflation. It's even
it
affecting
really
Zelda.
is. In Zelda, like if you play like Link to the Past, it's like, oh, I want to buy this. You go outside, you cut some grass, and you farm, kill some enemies.
Yeah.
But outside of like the Yigas and the Octoroks, you really don't get money. And it's like, okay, and when you do, it's like rarely will you get a 20 rupee. Usually it's a 1 in a 5. So it's like, oh wow, this is penance. So that is, I guess, a critique. I just wish money was a little bit more plentiful with how much you need if you want to do everything. I don't think there's some games that have padding, like, oh, you really want to upgrade everything? Well, we're going to make you grind. I don't think this game needs grinding. It's huge as is. That being said, it is just one of those things where I think I took the intended path. Like
Hmm.
like I did that in Breath of the Wild, I believe, too. I think I did which is I went to Breath of the Wild. I did Zora, and I did counterclockwise. So I did Zora, Goron, Rito, Gerudo, which I thought was the intended path. And in this game, what I think is the intended path, which isn't a spoiler because it's the same 4 areas that you go
Yeah.
to. I did Rito first, and then I went clockwise this time instead of counterclockwise.
That's what
And
I
I did,
did.
and I think that's the intended path because if they kind of lead you in things. So like I finally got to the Gerudo area, and I did the 4 things. But by the time I got to Groot, I probably had like 100 hours in the game. Like I did like the entire second map underneath, like entirely, like all 120 routes before I ever went there. Like it was insane. I was like, oh my god, like I've been, and it's not because I couldn't go there because I could. It's just I got absorbed doing all these other things and all these other areas and all these other side quests and
Mhm.
and the side adventures and the side stories, and they I feel like there's like Jared talking about lore. There's so much lore in them, and there's so many throwbacks and references, and I love it. I love the calls and the just the subtle nod, and even talking about the imprisoning war, brought me back to Link to the Past, and I'm like, oh my god, imprisoning war! Like they rarely talk about that, like that was a thing back then. So I love it. I love everything really.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's so much to get into, and we definitely want to talk about the new mechanics and with the hand and all that stuff. But I think before we jump into that, like one of the things that I realized is I feel different playing this game. Like Jared, you mentioned about Dark Souls. I think with the difficulty, but I think also like just the feel of the game. It is a very darker game. Like you're like you feel it as you're walking around. You're like, this is not just a happy-go-lucky place. Like this is something's going on here, and I'm feeling it as I'm playing it. So yeah, what do you guys think about the story itself and how they're telling it? And I mean, of course, this is where we may accidentally, go into some spoilers here, but what do you think of the story so far, Greg? I know those of us have, you and I have kind of strayed away from the main story, but what do you think so far? Because it starts in like right as soon as you start the game with a cutscene, which I thought was like amazing. It was unheard of for Nintendo, for Zelda, but it was so good. It sucked me right in. So what do you think, Greg?
I really enjoyed it. I thought it was very incredible. Like I was not expecting like the cutscene, and I'm like, oh wow, I got all my heart containers. Like let's go. Like
Right.
we're just right where we left off. Like let's start using magnesis. Let's go. No,
Yeah.
that obviously never happens. But it was really cool to see him like all fully like powered up, and then as soon as like he loses all of his energy, it's just you really want to keep going from there. And then you hear like familiar like names and stuff, as I like mentioned, like Raru and some other things going on like that, and then like Temple of Time, and then like it just you're all just you it's really hard to like not want to continue. Like, oh, I have to go inside. I have to go see it. It's like it's the Temple of Time. Like, and like I had a friend was saying like oh, like in this game it looks like it's in the early part, because other games like you don't go to the Temple of Time until like the end of the game, and so it's very awesome that like all that just all woven in, and I am really deeply enthralled, and I really need to get back on to trying to rescue Zelda, but it's been she might have to wait another couple hundred years before I
Same. There are too many shrines to find and too many Kuroks to stumble across before I go find save Zelda. Yeah, yeah, same. Jared, what do you think about this? Loving the lore of Zelda and everything. What do you think about this one so far?
I'm really enjoying it. Like going off of what Greg said, like that beginning cutscene immediately kind of drew you in. It's like, okay, this is darker than it normally is a great way for, even from a like developer standpoint, of like here's to kind of like legitimize why you're kind of so and so strength, and kind of really play everything through. And the story I'm really enjoying so far. And like as you get deeper, it's kind of like gets more and more interesting, and you're kind of like seeing things. There are like a few small gripes I've had, but I can't really talk to about it because of spoiler stuff. But it's really kind of like pulling you in more than I felt with Breath of the Wild. I feel like what they did with this game is they saw what a lot of the gripes are that people had with the previous game. And you're like, all right, how can we make this better? And for a large portion of them, they kind of went above and beyond with it, making it better, give it that extra polish, and really kind of pull you in. But because of how many like different paths you could take, it's like, oh, there's like this little story going on, or I want to see what's going on here and here and here and here. So it is like a lot of things that you kind of miss, and then you're kind of like like stumbling upon them again, or learning more about what's going on over here. But it also kind of helps pertain to what's going on in some other region, which I think they did a really good job with the story for it.
That's cool. Yeah, I find myself like sometimes having to remind myself like, okay, what was going on here? And I do like, they have given us, tips and reminders and the what Purapad,
Mm.
and to keep me reminded about like, oh yeah, that was my objective. I forgot about that because I got distracted by all these side quests. But yeah, Barry, what do you think of the story and where they went so far with the sequel?
Yeah, I like the fact that it started right away with a cutscene, and in typical Nintendo fashion, like most of what they showed us was within the first minutes of the game. So it's like, oh, not real spoilers. Once I started playing and I had, all the hearts, I'm like, oh, they're Metroiding this. Like they're pulling a Metroid right now. Like there's no way I was just waiting for it. I'm like, I'm gonna lose somehow. I'm gonna lose everything, and of course, you do. I think in terms of story, they listened to the criticisms of Breath of the Wild, which Breath of the Wild's story was deep, but it was also very light. You had to dig for it. You had to go to the special spots to get the memories, and you had to really get into the lore to see how deep the story was. But for the casual people, there was no direction. It was just kind of like wherever you want to go. Why am I doing this? You didn't feel that sense of urgency. Yeah, you saw Calamity Ganon around the castle, but you just okay. I think in this game the sense of urgency is bigger. I think there's a reason, each area is a plight you feel, and I think this is the first version of Hyrule ever for me that's made me really, really care. And it's the second game ever that's really pulled me in like that, with the first being Link's Awakening, but that was Cole and Island, that was not Hyrule. Even Breath of the Wild, Hyrule, it was kind of like, this sucks, but I was so detached because it was 100 years later
Mm.
that it was like, okay, this sucks for this world, but fine. But with Tears of the Kingdom, I had just done Breath of the Wild, or 6 years ago, I did Breath of the Wild. I saved it. And now it's time to rebuild. And now all that work I did, all those hundreds of hours I put into Breath of the Wild is now being undone. And these poor people are just getting like beaten down again and again. And it's like, I feel like I'm walking through the ruins, and I'm like, now I'm thinking back 100 years ago when it was live. Like, wow, this place still isn't rebuilt, and it's just getting crapped on, and like, this sucks. Like, man, if I was part of this world, I don't know, I think I would just probably sit in a corner and cry like this, like just wait for the inevitable, because this is talking about gloom and doom. So I love that. I love that it pulls you in, and then those rays of hope. Sometimes it comes from children, sometimes it comes from main characters, sometimes it comes just from NPCs. Like, there's one particular area, and I'm not going to spoil it, but when you get there, they're like, due to the changes in the environment since Breath of the Wild, and all that's happened, we have to close up. Like, you are our last customer ever, and like, that's it. And I'm like, oh my God, wait, what? Like, no, like, open again. How can I fund you? Oh wait, money is tight. I can't fund you. But how could I help you? Like, and it's just, you feel it. You feel the plight of people. You feel restaurants that are closed and shops that can't afford to open, and like, and it's like, oh my God, like, these people's lives are just being upheavaled. So I love it. I think in terms of that, they're doing a great job. I will say I called it, like, I'm not gonna say what it was, but I figured out the story before it happened. I just pieced it together, which was good. They laid enough breadcrumbs for you to piece it together if you're paying attention, and I did accidentally go to the end of the game, and I was not trying to go to the end of the game. I was looking for something, and I'm like, well, maybe it's here. And after about halfway through, I'm like, it's not here, but let's just go to the end of the game. Once I realized what I was doing, so I went to the end of the game, and I didn't win. I purposely didn't win because I didn't want to beat the game yet.
Mm-hmm.
But it was interesting to do. It's like going to Hyrule Castle in Breath of the Wild. Like, I stayed clear of that place
Yeah.
until I was good and ready, and here I was just like, okay, I'm just running past enemies. Let's do it. Like, I don't care, just to see. And it's funny because there's a spoiler in the final area that confirmed what my theory was before the game itself confirmed it via, again, flashbacks, because there's a memories kind of deal.
Mm-hmm.
But memories did confirm it as well afterwards. But it was interesting to just to stumble upon that. Like, oops, I was honestly not going there to do that. I was honestly like, oh, this, I'm looking for the central something. This is central. Let's do it. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, that was a bad move.
Yeah, it's crazy how open-ended they have gone with this game, and left it up to people that you can just stumble upon the ending on accident. So let's step back a little bit, and talking about the beginning of the game, you realize that at the very beginning of the game, you do have everything. You're powered up and all that stuff. Funny enough, I didn't realize it until like halfway through the opening sequence because I was so focused on the cinematics and everything. And then all of a sudden, I think I had to attack something. I was like, oh, look at that. I got all my hearts. I was just so focused on what was happening that I totally ignored the UI altogether. And so that was cool. But you do basically lose your arm at the very beginning of the game, and you get this other arm that attaches itself to you. And then through that arm, you get all these different mechanics that allow you to progress through the game. So we've seen these in a lot of the videos. The fuse attack, the ultra hand allows you to move things around, ascension, which allows you to go through the ceiling, things like that. So Greg, what do you think about these new mechanics? Are you enjoying them so far? Do you have any gripes about them? Because there's a couple things that I actually don't like about it. This is where I'm going to actually get a little negative when it comes back around to me. But there are a couple things I don't like. But overall, what do you think, Greg?
For the most part, I don't really have too much problems with like the fuse and like the ascension ones. Those seem to be kind of like how I expected them to work. As my main stuff is like with the ultra hand thing, because it feels like it takes like forever to like line up this kind of stuff. Like you rotate it, then like you think you're rotating, like it says to rotate vertically, but then it only like it doesn't quite. It just still is still spinning it, and it's like, well, no, I'm trying to like make the rectangle like go up and down, not like be slanted. And it's like it feels like it's very difficult to get a lot of that stuff to line up, and then it's a lot of like hitting the buttons like may have to do a horizontal and then a vertical, horizontal and then a vertical. Oh, now it's finally like the way that I want it to go, and then like it just seems like a lot of that is just kind of cumbersome almost to kind of get through. And at least with my experience with the game, I feel like I'm not really even barely even using the fuse thing at all. I haven't really found a lot of uses where I actually really need to use it. Like I'll occasionally pick up a stick and fuse it to a rock, and that's like, okay, now the weapon's a little bit stronger, and like whatever. Then it just breaks. And then like, all right, I picked up a new tree branch. Here's another rock. Boom, like another makeshift weapon. So it's like feel like I'm not really using the fuse thing much at all. The ascension thing is only kind of times where I think about it. I'm like, wait a minute, like why am I trying to climb this huge thing? There's actually a ceiling. I could have just went through the bottom, and like I'm still ingrained just to try to climb up the thing instead of remembering that I have that. But that one seems like it's been working pretty solid. The camera angle is kind of somewhat a little bit funky, but I seem like I'd be able to get it to work. But the main gripes is really with the ultra hand kind of stuff, because feels like it's so involved just to get everything to turn the way you want it to.
Yeah. Jared, how about you?
For me, it's very similar to what Greg's been saying. Like I felt like with the ultra hand, I felt like I was like trying to solve a Rubik's cube mentally at first until I really got used to it. And a lot of it kind of went towards like the whole building aspect of things, which was really cool, but I haven't really used it too much aside from just kind of like either messing around or just kind of like traversing. And the ascension kind of works as it should. Same with recall and the others. Fusing definitely becomes useful, but I kind of use it more as like I don't have enough space to carry like a certain amount of items. I'm like, I'm just gonna fuse this, make it a little stronger, so I don't have to leave an item around, just kind of picking up everything.
I didn't think about that. I need to start doing that.
Yeah, and while I really like all the abilities, it also kind of in some ways made me miss a lot of the Sheikah abilities from the Sheikah Slate abilities. Like I missed having things like bombs and kind of working with those type of things. And I really wish that they were kind of back. I don't know, maybe they are back and I haven't found it yet, but I don't know for sure. But I don't know. I really liked having those things, and I feel like you could have gotten a lot of really interesting extra like tidbits from using both sets of abilities. But I've enjoyed it, but I feel like it kind of drew away a little bit in some aspects.
Yeah. Barry, how about you?
I did forget to jump in about the recall thing really quick though, but There's been a number of those like falling things, like the falling like things coming from the sky that I've seen, just like in the trailer and all the stuff that was shown to us. But whenever I use the recall thing, it only goes up like part way and it doesn't reconnect to anything. So it just like stops
It's
in
not
midway in the
supposed to.
sky, and then it just like I just fall right back to the earth.
You're supposed to use it so you get height, and then you jump off and paraglide from that spot, so you get instant. It's like if there's a mountain that you need to climb, and one of those falls right there, you get on it, you recall it up, and then jump off there, and you're instantly have that height.
Oh,
It's
because
not. It doesn't lead anywhere.
Some of them
I was under
do.
the impression, yeah, I was under the impression it
Well,
was
a
supposed to
few
connect to
do.
an island, one of the flying islands, and
Yeah.
then you're just supposed to just like give more areas to explore like above.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
some
Kind of
lead
where
to
the
it, and
Great
some are just
Sky
kind of like there as a shortcut.
The majority of them are there just as shortcuts, just
Yeah.
to help.
Yeah, I actually rode one way too early and then got stuck up there because there was no water to jump into, and I didn't have my glider, and I was like, I don't know how to do this. Luckily, I fast traveled to save myself after falling to my death twice. I was like, I've got to find some other way to get off this thing, and I was like, oh right, I can fast travel, and that's the way I've gotten out of a lot of tight spots a couple of times. It's like, but Barry, what do you think about all the different moves and mechanics?
Like Jared said, I very much find myself missing some of the Sheikah Slate abilities. Bombs, I use bombs all the time to prevent weapon breaking and to help me, and I miss them. The bomb flowers are the substitute, so you have the bomb flowers instead. So again, going back to Link's Awakening, the fact that you can do bomb arrows is pretty cool, and anything arrows. And then the stasis, man, fighting certain enemies like Lionels and stuff. Like if I could stasis again, that would make things so much easier. But that being said, I feel like because those two abilities that I want are very combat focused and they removed them, and now you don't have abilities combat focused. All the abilities are exploration or puzzle solving focused. And I think that's really where I miss it. I only miss them during combat sequences. Outside of that, it's great. I think recall is underutilized. Like outside of going up, you don't use it outside of shrines, but in shrines where you use it, it works extremely well. And I've cheesed stuff before where it's like, oh, here's all these platforms like coming down and build a bridge and get up. And I'm like, oh no, I'm just going to jump on a platform, recall, and it's just going to take me up like an elevator. Like, okay, sure. When I say cheesing, it's not really, it's using the tools available. And I love that. I love that you can do that. Ascension, I wish worked more places. And I wish it sometimes would stop. Like sometimes you go all the way up to whatever, and it's like, oh no, this is too far. I just want to go to the next floor, not to the top of the mountain. Like, but I do like it, and I think it's just again, it's an exploration thing, and Ultra Hand. Uh, I had the same issues as Greg to start with. First off, the motion control. That worked really well. I'm like, oh, this motion control is pretty cool. And then when I wasn't using Ultra Hand, the motion control made me sick because I was like, oh, now it's starting to rotate everything like because I don't always sit still. I move sometimes, and I'm like, oh no, I got to turn it off. So I turned it off, and then I was like, well, I can't. I just want to do it straight. Like, how do I do it? And once I figured out how to rotate, it becomes second nature. So it's just utilizing it more. Building was one of the things I was really worried about. It works. Sometimes a little frustrating because it's like I'm trying to make these even and it's not. And I don't build a lot. I when I do build, it's kind of fun, and some challenges require you to build, and you could tell when they give you the necessary things. Like there was one cave that was covered in spikes, and you couldn't, or thorns, and you couldn't put them out because it was wet. And I was like, what do I do? And there was a building area, and they literally built like a tank. And I'm driving through with like lasers shooting in cannons, and I'm blowing up the goblins. I'm like, all right, this is kind of fun, like here I am coming in like a war movie. So I like it when it works like that. Uh, I didn't get now. There's also some little gripes with it. One, the camera. I think the camera with Ultra Hand is absolutely ass. And what I mean by that is if you're carrying something and you want to look up, like it only goes so high. I want to move the camera separately than the object I'm moving because it's like I want to put it up here, but I can't see where it's going. Like I was in one of the dungeons and I had to lift things through the roof. and I'm like blindly throwing it up because the camera won't show me, and I'm like, come on, like make the cat. You have a separate button for me to stop moving it and rotate it. Give me a second button to stop moving it and instead control the camera. There's enough buttons on the controller. Minor gripe, but it is there. Um, there the other thing, and this does work with Ultra Hand when building something. If you move too far away from what you're building, it despawns.
Mm.
And that is frustrating if you're like, oh, because there was one thing I built, and I'm like, oh, I need to get one other piece, and I had to go get that other piece, and I came back, and the thing that I had built was gone now, but the pieces didn't reload even. I had to actually like fast travel away and come back for the pieces to reload, and I was like, oh my god, like, and everything done, it was like the finishing piece. I was so frustrated.
Yeah.
And then there's another ability. If you have your wheel, you might have one thing missing, and I had that thing missing for a good 60 something hours. Other people had it found it right away, and that is a spoiler kind of, but it doesn't, whatever. It's auto build. And if you found auto build already, then you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't found auto build, you're in my boat because I didn't find it forever. And auto build is neat because it gives you certain schematics and you can build stuff, and it also lets you instantly build things you previously done. And if you don't have the tool or the pieces, it will you could pay a certain currency to, not rupees, thank god, to generate the items so that you can build it. But here's the problem: it shows the last 30 things you built. There's no favorites. And everything you attach, so if you want to build a car, a standard car, you have a square and 4 wheels. That's 5 builds, or 4 builds really. Each wheel counts as a new step. So if you put the controller in the middle, that's 5. So 5 of your 30. So if you build something and then have to build something else, um, your history is gone. Like there's one time where it's like, oh, bring me 10 of these things, and I'm like, oh, well, let me just attach all 10 together and bring one thing. Well, that's the third of my history is gone. I wish it let you save favorites of things you built so you can instantly rebuild them again, but
Yeah.
it doesn't. Web browsers had bookmarks since the 90s. I guess Nintendo decided we don't need to utilize that. So that's
Yeah.
a minor gripe. It's not
I
deterrent,
do
but
feel
it's
like that's something they could really add to it in like an update or something,
yeah,
because I
easy.
agree completely with that sentiment. Though, like one of the fun things that I have seen with, like, there's been tons of people using like the Ultra Hand for really creative and fun building experiences. Uh, I actually have used it quite a bit for the Fuse and recreating the classic meme from the Zelda cartoon where you have a bomb on your shield and you kind of launch yourself all a ways away. So it's been really interesting and cool, kind of experimenting with a lot of stuff that you
But yeah,
can
that
fuse with your current equipment and see like, oh, what does this do? What does this do? Oh, that was a waste, but this was still a cool experience. And just kind of like seeing that, like especially with the arrows, you could do a lot of really cool
Mm.
things. It does make me miss having all like the designated arrows, like a fire, a
Mm.
bomb, electric, and ice arrow from Breath of the Wild. But it's really cool how they had like, okay, well, this one type of mushroom does this, this, or this, depending on how you use it, and how you fuse things really comes together in an interesting way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the fuse with when experimenting is fun. Always keep a few of your shields with rockets on them, because you can absolutely cheese certain shrines, and I've done it before where it's just because when you use the rocket, you just hold out your shield and it launches you straight up, and then you glide right to the end. It is fantastic and highly recommend. Um, the I tried to put the mirror on the shield. I'm like, oh, the mirror shield. I try to do puzzles and it does not work like the mirror shield. Like Ocarina of Time, you were able to crouch and like move your shield around. You can't do that. Your just shield goes in one direction as you move.
Mm.
So I'm like, oh, this is cumbersome and terrible. Like it does not work like I wanted it to. Like like and I think it's just a weird negative. There's too many items. There's like so many things you could attach to your arrows. Half the times I'd either just use bombs, occasionally like fire or ice, or just plain arrows, because I'm like, oh, I don't know what every different mushroom does or what, like I don't have time to sit there and figure it out. Like I'm in the middle of a battle here, like, and I don't want to waste resources. So I'm just
Yeah,
like, all right, you know what? This just works. I'll
it's true.
go with what works.
Yeah, there's so much in the game, which is a weird gripe to have, but there really is. And I think there are some, like what you guys have been saying too. I think a simple update to provide some quality of life things could be really helpful. I think even navigating the different items and things like that, like weapons seem to make sense, but then items, I'm like, why can't I just grab and hold them from the quick menu? Like from the thing, why do I have to go into the start menu and then grab all the items if I want to cook them or whatever? Like I should just be able to like cycle through them real quick, select, done, throw them in the fire or whatever. I also, like you, Barry, like when you travel, but also if you like, there was this one time where I went to a stable and you were able to basically build a car there, and it was great because I needed to navigate, like I wanted to get back on the right path. And so I build this car, it's great. I'm driving along, and then all of a sudden I stop and I was like, "Huh, I think I can bust that thing open." And so I do. And then my car's gone. Luckily, I was pretty close, and so I went back and built it again. Went on my path, and then I found a shrine that I hadn't seen before. I was like, "Well, let's just pull over to the side of the road and take care of this shrine." Yep, car's gone when I got out of it. I'm like, that's so frustrating. I'm like,
Yep.
that is annoying. Because like I spent a lot of time because I don't have auto build or anything like that. And so like I spent a lot of time putting that together, and I built it all around me because I was like, man, if I built a whole like structure, then they can't shoot at me and they can't really see me, and I can glide right past the enemies and all that stuff. So I spent like, like 10 minutes building this thing and gone, just because I wanted to go hit an easy shrine along the way. So those things are frustrating, but I do feel like some of those can be easily taken care of by just a quality of life update along the way.
See, I can see their reasoning with the shrine thing because you're technically loading a new area. But like stopping on the side of the road, and when it happened to me, it was one of the quests where the guy's holding up a sign and you had to build to keep it up. And there was no materials next to him, so the materials were away. So I built the stuff and dragged it over, and I got it perfectly, and I'm like, good. And then it failed. I'm like, I need one more piece. Went back, got one more piece, came back, and what I had built was gone. And I had to come back later. And when I came back later after my frustration, I literally attached everything on that pile together, dragged the whole pile over to him, detached it all, and I'm like, now I'm building it, and if I need to adjust, nothing's disappearing on me. But I shouldn't have had to do that. Like
Right.
I was still in the same area. I didn't load. Like I understand loading. Fast travel should despawn stuff. Going into a zone, I can see that, but not walking, you know, 10
Right.
feet, even 100 feet in one direction, come back. If you didn't load the zone, it should still be there because that's part of the fun of it. Like you don't want to frustrate. And again, it's a minor nitpick, but it's something to know. Oh, and by attaching all that stuff together to drag over, forget about it. There goes your history in auto build
Hmm.
because as you're building those structures to hold the signs up, that counts too. Anything you do. Again, just give us a freaking save favorites.
It's true. Yeah. So
It was really interesting to find out what that like one that slot is, because like I was just like thinking, like I'm seeing all these stacks of resources of like, wouldn't it be great just like Animal Crossing this BS and just have like a recipe like, okay, I need to build a house, okay, boom, done.
that that's what
like
you
in
get.
like the Lego games, you see them going like this the whole time.
But even that's kind of finicky because the way it works is you have to have if you have the pieces there, it'll automatically use it. But it's not like it doesn't put out a radius. So like there's areas where there's a bunch of pieces around you and you're like auto build and it tells you, oh, you need a wheel and the wheel's like to your left. You have to actually using like drag it over there for it to find the wheel and pick it up, even though it's within your radius. You have to manually like a magnet picking up pieces. And again, if you don't have anything, you can pay a currency to fill it in, which is nice. But
Mhm.
it's just one of those things where I wish that you could do save favorites. Now there are schematics. You can find schematics of pre-built stuff.
Mm.
So you do have a sort of favorites, but those are built by the developer, not built by you.
Right. Right.
It would be really cool to have like not only a favorite system, but like a way of sharing it with like friends. Like, oh, I made
Yes.
this really cool thing. Here's like a code that you could do, and
Mm.
you could get it from there.
Yeah.
Kind of like
Someone showed on Twitter they built like this fence that you put on enemies, and it's got like a spinning fire turret, and then you just put it on an enemy, and it just burns them alive. They can't get out. I'm like, I want to build that. What's the schematics? That sounds awesome.
That's
it would be
amazing.
really cool sharing things like that with friends. Even like I know they do it with like Splatoon, where like you kind of share like your clothing that you wear, your items, all that stuff. Even if you do something like with the Nintendo app that they never use for your smartphone, just like, hey, here's like my favorite builds. You could share them online, get other people to kind of look at them, and make whatever or see what you could do,
Yeah.
and really just kind of make really cool stuff and share it with people. I think that was a little bit of a misstep on their end in that sense.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That would be cool for sure. Yeah, because I think that's the big replay value in this game as well. Like that'll keep you going for hours and hours after you beat the game, is because like there's so much to explore, there's so much to build. Like you're really taking this whole like open-ended world thing to another level, because like it's really your game. How do you want to experience it? And yeah, a way to actually share that with other people would be really cool, instead of just like taking a screenshot and going, well, good luck. This is kind of how I did it, but I don't know, you're gonna have to figure it out yourself. But we have talked, I think, well over an hour about Tears of the Kingdom. There's still so much to talk about. Maybe we'll have a part 2 at some point. If you guys do want that, let us know in the comments. Eventually, we'll have a part 2 once more of us get closer to the end of the game or actually beat it. But just final thoughts, Greg. What do you think about Tears of the Kingdom?
Oh, it's definitely incredible. It's probably gonna be passing like Breath of the Wild, which is my current like favorite game, because it's just so incredible. I like all the extra stuff to be done and throughout Hyrule, and at least all the callbacks are still there to Breath of the Wild, and everything I've seen so far, I've just been doing just mostly either with a smile on my face or just like yelling in frustration that some stuff is way overpowered than it should be. But it's I understand that I'm not going to be forever at that point, but it's just me like being more confident in my ability is where in Breath of the Wild I never fought a single Lionel the entire game, and then now I'm seeing like, oh, here's like a Hynix, let's go take him down. Like I definitely have like, a lot more confident like playing through it though, so it's definitely been a very enjoyable experience and definitely looking more to playing more.
Cool. Barry, how about you?
Yeah, I mean it's the gripes I have are minor gripes. They're nitpicks. They don't detract from the score. They're more like it would be nice if, but the rest of the game, it's fantastic. And my biggest fear was I don't like rewatching stuff, replaying stuff, especially right away. I have so many things I want to experience in life. I want to just experience new things, and I was worried about retreading Breath of the Wild's Hyrule, and it feels fresh. It feels like a brand new Hyrule. I don't know how they did it, but I'm rediscovering areas, and I don't remember a lot, and it feels like a brand new version. Even though some of it's similar and some of it does feel familiar, it's different enough. And of course, the extra things like the Sky Islands, and of course down below, those are 100% new and 100% fresh. And yeah, I have the last game I was pulled in like this, I think, was Xenoblade 3. Just absorbed into this world, and I want to play it right now, but
It's true. We'll wrap up soon because we can get back into it. Jared, what's your last final thoughts about Tears of the Kingdom? What you've experienced so far?
I'm definitely like 100% agree with what Barry's been saying, and even down to the part where you kind of are playing it, then you get sidetracked, and then you come back and you're like, what happened to the last 4 hours? I haven't accomplished much, but I also accomplished so much. And I love that aspect of it, because we only get a new Zelda game in like every 6 years roughly, or give or take. So like having something that I feel like I've gone so far in, but I also feel like I haven't scratched the surface. Makes me feel like I'm going to be playing this for a good amount of time. So I'm just really excited to kind of like just keep getting into it, seeing what else is in the world, seeing what Nintendo might add to it later on, and then just kind of like really take it all in and see what comes from it.
Yeah.
You know, one thing you just said there about adding later on, I don't think Nintendo is. Remember when Breath of the Wild launched, they actually launched with the expansion pass. You could get it day one, you got that Switch shirt and everything. They didn't do that, and Inuma said that this game was done last year when it was delayed, and they spent the last year polishing this game up. So I think if they were planning DLC, they would have done it during that time, and they didn't announce anything. So I don't think they're adding to this game. I think this game is done. There is no DLC. I could be wrong. They could surprise us, but at least as of now,
Yeah.
usually DLC packs have been, with Nintendo even, have launched with the game. Xenoblade 3 did it, Xenoblade 2 did it, Breath of the Wild did it, Splatoon 3 did it, Fire Emblem Engage did it. And very rarely, like Mario Kart, does it come way later. Smash Brothers did it. So I think this is it. And I think this is enough. I don't think there needs to be DLC. I'd rather them work on the next game at this point, because this game, first off, they need a vacation. They all should take a break and a vacation, a well-deserved one, and then work on the next game.
It's going to be a part of the enhanced edition for Switch Pro or Switch 2.
Yes, that will be a thing. There will be an enhanced Switch Pro Breath of the Wild combo pack.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I'm right with you guys as well. Just everything that you've said, I basically echo that, and I do think it's been so cool of how they've integrated so much. I think when we talked about this when the Mario movie came out, like, Ben, there was so much love that went into that movie. People that were fans of the franchise, like, clearly put all these different nods to the history and everything, and that's how I feel when I play this game. Like, people that love Zelda put their heart and soul into this game, and loving how they even integrated the sky stuff and the world down below, and like, oh well, this is why, like, I'm connecting dots. I'm like, oh, that's why we didn't have dungeons and things like that down below in the last game. They didn't realize this part of their world existed, and like all this stuff. I'm like, that's a brilliant way to bring that into the story, and I get why they're doing all this, and I think that's a really cool, just a nod to, like, they had the whole picture in mind, and it's just really cool to see it play out. And I'm amazed, like, how a team of people, I mean, they're brilliant people, but just like can connect all those dots and make all that work is just beyond me. And and only have, in the end, we just have a couple like nitpicks about the UI or those kind of things that can be easily fixed.
Supposedly the islands in the sky were supposed to be in Breath of the Wild, but the Wii U couldn't handle it. So that's what I heard. So because of the Wii U, they didn't put it in Breath of the Wild and saved it for sequel.
That makes sense.
Well, kind of a lot of Nintendo's philosophy is like, oh, we have all these great ideas. Oh, we'll just build it, make a sequel. Like, that's how
our hardware isn't powerful enough. We'll just wait to the next one because we're behind.
I mean, they keep pushing the limits
going back since. Yeah, I mean, that's been through the 80s. Like, the original Mario Brother, like Super Mario Brothers, was supposed to have Yoshi. Then NES wasn't strong enough, so boom, Super Nintendo. Now he was there. Boom. Like, they've been doing that ever since. Like, they always have way too many ideas, and then like, okay, let's put it into the sequel. Like, Super Mario Galaxy, they had all these other great ideas. Boom, Super Mario Galaxy 2. A lot of that.
Yeah, they wanted to do multiplayer way earlier than they were actually able to do in co-op. They had to wait till like several systems later to be able to pull that off. Everything. So, sometimes the software people need to be like leading the way at the hardware. Like, we have to have this now, not 10 years down the road. Let's catch up and leapfrog some stuff so we can actually pull this stuff off now. So at this rate,
before someone else takes our idea.
Yeah, exactly. Well, cool. Well, yeah, if you have played Tears of the Kingdom, Let us know what your thoughts are down in the comments on our YouTube version, or let us know on social media in our Discord as well. We'd love to hear what you guys think about the game, where you are so far. If you are on our Discord, just be sure to use the spoiler tag for anything that is remotely a spoiler, just to take care of and keep everybody else in mind as well. But yeah, love to hear what you guys think about the game, and I'm sure we'll keep talking about Tears of the Kingdom for several episodes in the future as well. But let's move on to some other news, because apparently there were some other things other than Tears of the Kingdom coming out over the last couple of weeks. So we got a few headlines we'll want to share with you guys, and then let you know about what games are coming out over the next couple of weeks. But let's start with those headlines.
Yeah, so it was kind of revealed through, I think it was initially Nintendo of Japan, but now it's been confirmed for all regions. But Pac-Man 99 is going to be powered offline at some point, October 8th of this year. So if you've been really enjoying it and wanting to collect stuff, like, you can still play it all the way up through October 8th, and then it will go and join Super Mario 35 in the graveyard.
So, Speed just talked about Tears of the Kingdom, and if you want a little bit more in a different way, Critical Role has announced that they're doing a one-shot sponsorship with Nintendo, where on Tuesday, May 30th at 7 p.m. Pacific, on Critical Role's Twitch and YouTube channels, you can check out a very special episode where the adventurers will go through Hyrule.
Nice. And if you've been waiting for the rest of the Super Mario Advance series on Game Boy Advance on the Nintendo Switch Online, you don't have to wait much longer. On May 25th, the 1 through 3 are finally going to join 4 that was already out on the system. So you're going to have Super Mario Advance 1, 2, 3, and 4 all available if you're a Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack member starting on May 25th, 2023.
Probably couldn't tell, but all of us have really enjoyed Tears of the Kingdom, but it's already been starting to be making even more headlines. So now it's sold 10 million units worldwide just within the first 3 days, and it's also become the fastest selling game in the series. So definitely hats off to Tears of the Kingdom. And again, if you like what you heard today, just leave some comments and we'll be sure to check them out.
And finally, we've talked about this company before, this publisher, No Gravity Games. They decided randomly in the middle of May to host something called May Madness, where they decided to bring Halloween into the month of May. All of this week, starting today, every single day is going to be a free game on the Switch digitally that you can get. Today's game is Pandemic Shooter. It is free, and for the remainder of this week, there will be 4 other Halloween or spooky themed games that you can get for free. So definitely check that out if you enjoy free games.
Nice. So we can just go quickly around and just kind of share any thoughts. Jared, any thoughts about any of those stories?
I'm really excited for the Critical Role one, actually, because Matt Mercer is going to be in it, as he usually is, but in this case, it's even bigger connection due to his voice acting career now. So I'm really, really excited for that one.
Cool. Greg, how about you?
Pretty much the kind of usual stuff from when other similar stuff is lined up. Like, obviously, it really stinks to see Pac-Man 99 being shut down. The Critical Role thing does sound kind of interesting, and I'll probably have to check that out. I guess it's about time that Super Mario Advance 1, 2, and 3 are joining after the fourth one, but I know the fourth one is still my favorite because it's Mario 3. Yeah, and then definitely great news for Zelda and anyone that looks out for free games and stuff with the Gravity giveaway.
Cool. Barry?
Yeah, I mean, free games are always good, so I'll be going and downloading that. And I've done the Christmas ones and all that because it's free games. I probably never will play them, but at least I'll have them on my Switch account. The Mario Advance stuff, it's pretty funny that it didn't launch with those games. Like, I understand why they launched with 4 because of the e-reader levels, and I would thought, well, they're probably just going to skip 1 to 3 then, because they're already there on the Super Nintendo and the NES and all that. Nope, they're just throwing them on there too, which is cool, but it's kind of like it doesn't have that big pull because you could already play those games. at least versions of those games on the system. But more games is always is a bonus. I hadn't really watched Critical Role, but I might check it out, see what that's about. Zelda selling over 10 million. That's fantastic. That is absolutely fantastic, and I hope Nintendo, usually as they usually do, and reinvest that money after paying the developers rightful salaries, and decides to use that to make the next game even bigger. And as for Pac-Man 99, there is a small silver lining. If you do purchase the single player content, you can still continue to play that single player content and play against 98 other bots. But this is why I hate online only and server based and digital only games, because that never did get a physical. So that actual single player content, when it goes down, if you didn't buy it, that single player game that is there is gone forever. And again, that's lost, and I hate it. I hate seeing games just being lost. So if you have any interest in Pac-Man, if you like Pac-Man, you want to try Pac-Man 99, play it for free, but you have no choice. They're holding you to buy it now before October 8th, or you do not get to play that ever again, and that sucks.
Yep. 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 I'm right there with you guys as well. That was really unfortunate to hear. Yeah, Critical Role, I heard about it a while back. And Barry and I was talking earlier before we started recording. It was funny because I thought Barry was the one that told me about Critical Role, but I think it was a different friend. But yeah, like I've always wanted to get into it, but I always I have to start so far back because their campaigns are really long and you can't just watch the new one. But this one, it's like a standalone thing, so I can easily just hop right into it. So I'm excited about that. And yeah, I'm wondering, is that going to be a thing that Nintendo is going to jump into? Are we going to have some role playing, tabletop kind of experiences for Zelda? That could be a really cool avenue for them to go into. I could see a lot of people really getting excited about that kind of a thing. And Critical Role will be definitely the team of people to put that on the map and get it out there for people as well. Yeah, I think the only other thing that I'm excited really about is, Zelda. They probably sold like 20 million by now. They haven't put it out there, but I'm sure it's just kept going ever since then. Yeah, I'm always up for free games as well. So after I get off here, I'm gonna be going over to No Gravity's site and clicking that button to get my free games. So yeah. Let's move on into what's happening over the next couple weeks. But before we do that, just another reminder, if you have not followed us on social media, please do that. We are on Twitter at NintendoFuse, and you can also find us on Discord. Our links for all those in the show notes, the YouTube description as well. And we'd love to just have you in there and chatting with everybody else in our growing community over there and able to talk about Zelda, all these other games as well. And just, we have some server or channels in there where you can just talk about whatever as well. And so yeah, just love to have you jump over there in our growing community, so please do that. And you can see all the pictures that Jared posted from his experience in Nintendo World Store, and get to experience all those again as well. But let's talk about what's coming out over the next couple weeks. There are a few games that maybe people will be interested in if you're not playing Tears of the Kingdom. As I scroll those on the screen, I'm seeing right at the very beginning we got Puzzle Bobble. Every Bubble is coming out, as well as a combo Bust a Move 16-bit console edition of Puzzle Bobble and Bust a Move as well. I'll be honest, I forgot to look through this list because I've been too busy playing Tears of the Kingdom, so I don't even really know what's coming out over the next couple weeks. So I'm going to be looking over this list as I'm scrolling it in the video version. But Barry, any games that that are coming out over the next couple weeks that you're excited about?
Not offhand for me, but my main thing is obviously Tears of the Kingdom, and when I eventually finish it, depending on how much time is left before Final Fantasy 16, I might try to get to Process of Elimination, which is a game that came out a little earlier this year that looked really interesting that I just never had time to go to. And since that next big game for me is Final Fantasy 16, I should have a little bit of time Depending on how long Tears takes, I may just never stop playing Tears. Who knows?
500 hours.
Oh, you know what? I'm already probably over a quarter of the way there.
Nice. Greg, how about you?
Nothing was really sticking out this time, but that's always good because I'll be definitely focused with Tears over the next 2 weeks.
Yep. Jared, any other games you're looking forward to, or is it pretty much going to be Tears of the Kingdom?
It's pretty much going to be Tears of the Kingdom for me, which is great because I'm always glad to not have a backlog. I always get anxious whenever that happens. But there is a game coming out, I think, in a couple of weeks. I'm not positive for sure, but I think the re-release of We Love Katamari, or a remake of it, Reroll, is going to be dropping around the beginning of June, I think. And I'm a huge fan of the Katamari series, so getting to play what is touted as the best one, or one of the best ones, if not the best one, is going to be really, really fun for me. But until then, it's just going to be just Zelda taking up my life.
Yeah.
There's the game for you, Steve. Waifu Space Conquest.
Yeah. Based on what I said the last episode, that's the game for me for sure. I am noticing there's so many games coming out on May 25th. Holy crap. The eShop is just going to get dropped on May 25th. Like every game that I'm scrolling past is May 25th, May 25th, May 25th.
And this is what happens where games come out and no one sees them because it's just too many launch at the same. There's so many games every week that there's some, you probably will never hear of any of these. And then suddenly somebody will say, Cassette Beast is fantastic. Have you played it? Like, never even heard of it. Well, why? Because it joined the launch May 25th with all of these other games.
There's so many of them. Oh, finally, May 26th. There we go.
But Jared, the We Love Katamari says June 2nd, so I had scrolled ahead on my own screen, but it'll eventually make it here for... We're still talking about this one, Steve.
So now there's a whole bunch for May 26th.
It's true. This fitness circuit. Okay. Yeah, the May list is going to last me till the next episode.
To hell with the ugly. There you go. There's a game.
There are some, I feel bad for all these games that are like indie games that no one's heard of that drop right after Tears of the Kingdom. I'm like, no one, on top of them all dropping on the same day, they're dropping right after a big Zelda game. No one is going to find these games, which is really unfortunate. But I mean, I guess it's just the way it happens sometimes.
That's why they gotta watch our podcast, and there'd be all this awareness of all these different games that are coming out.
It's true. Although we're not talking about them, I'm just scrolling them on the screen. So.
Well, at least people can look at them.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. They can watch. If you watch the video version,
someone might be like, "Oh, there's Killer Frequency. I've been waiting forever for that game."
One. Etrian Odyssey's Origin Collection. That is an absolute must play.
There you go.
3 fantastic JRPGs.
That hadn't come out before?
They were DS games. They came out.
Oh, okay.
They showed it off in the last Nintendo Direct, but it didn't come out yet.
Yeah.
Oh, here you go. Now you got We Love Katamari. We got Raiden coming out.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And Super Mega Baseball 4 might be fun. I think if they're leaning in the arcade style of baseball, they might actually be able to get it right. Like we all know how RBI baseball is.
One of your favorite games.
Yeah, yeah. Oh man, it's been awesome talking games with you guys. Jared, thanks so much for being on with us on this episode and showing us all why we should be so jealous of you, and not only on top of your all your art skills and your abilities to make all the masks that are behind you. This is another reason, if you have not watched the video version of this podcast, head over to our YouTube, because you'll want to watch this and look behind him over his shoulder, all these different Majora's masks that he's made, and all himself, which is so cool. Thanks for sharing about your experience and everything beyond Zelda and all that stuff. Anything exciting going on in your life over the next couple weeks?
Not too much. For most of the viewers who don't know me, I'm a high school teacher, and I actually have my own esports team. And we're actually going to be going to the Nationals in Florida for Super Smash Brothers. So we're gonna
Nice.
hopefully do well in that towards the end of June. So I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, thank you for having me. And maybe one of these days I'll do a nice house or room tour to show all the other things I've made or collected over the years that are like 98% Zelda.
Yeah.
You really
Yeah.
should.
That'd be
Yeah.
really cool. Yeah, let us know in the comments on YouTube, like how much you want that to happen, and well, if enough people, I mean, I think we want it to happen no matter what, but we want to hear from our audience and see how much you guys want that to happen. So, but yeah, thanks so
I think
much.
this house is probably the forgotten shrine. Like,
Yeah.
like Breath of the
Yeah.
Wild is that forgotten area.
That's true. Greg, anything going on exciting in your life in the next couple weeks?
Probably not a whole lot going on. It'll probably be mostly just Tears of the Kingdom for the most part. I did find that there's actually like a video game conference coming towards the end of June that I might actually going to. It's like down in my college town of Bloomington Normal. So that might try to check that out. Like as it comes up, it should be fun to go to. But other than that, it's pretty much just the same old, same old. Got the puppy to keep training and all that other stuff going on outside of video games and whatnot.
That's cool. Greg, I feel like we should have talked about this as long as we've known each other, but I don't think I realized, did you go to ISU?
I did, yeah.
We were probably like, because I was in Lincoln at that time, and so we were probably really close to each other, like during college, because we were in college at the same time. So, and we had no idea.
That is
Yeah,
funny.
unfortunately, I didn't join NintendoFuse until after I had graduated college.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yep. Barry, what's going on in your life?
We're less than 2 months away from baby now, so things are starting to get crazy. Working on the room and working on getting things set up and registry stuff coming in and all that on top of training puppies who are I feel like having one puppy wasn't so bad, but having two I think is actually worse because it makes training a little harder because they learn the bad habits from each other. And it's like, come on, stop, And then of course, when you're just trying to take care of them, they both want attention at the same time, and they're a handful, but we love them. And we took them for their first walk finally yesterday, which they did really well on. And we're letting them in the backyard more, and they just cut loose and they just run and they're having a ball. And I'm like, oh, I can't wait for them to be free and then see what they do. And when outside isn't as exciting as the normal, and we'll see what happens.
Nice. Yeah. Then they'll get jealous of the baby.
We hope that they take to the baby.
Yeah.
Chihuahuas are very protective, so hopefully they take to him and protect him. And by the time he's old enough to really be able to play with them, they'll be, a year and a half or so. So they'll be good age to play back.
Cool. And
hopefully you're not surprised with twins because that's gonna be like taking care of two puppies again.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's definitely not twins. It's we know by now.
It's hiding behind the other one. So you definitely don't have to spoil anything, but do you have a name chosen yet?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I do.
And again, you can abstain if you want to, but is it video game related?
No. When we actually named our puppies, we did do it video game related.
Yeah.
We did it video game adjacent.
Sure.
So we did Stella, which is ironic because we named them Stella and Luna, which is Star and Moon. But they didn't. It wasn't because of Star and Moon.
Yeah.
It was Stella was for Y'shtola from Final Fantasy 14, and people call her Stella sometimes or Stola, and Luna is because my wife loves Final Fantasy 10 and loves Yuna, the main character, the female lead, and decided to do Luna, which is very similar to. And then ironically afterwards, I'm like, oh, it's Star and Moon. Like I totally wasn't supposed to be that way.
That's cool.
But we did do video game related there. But no, my son is going to be a junior, so it's not going to be video game related at all.
Yeah.
It's going to be more personal.
Cool.
And I got to feel him kick 2 days ago, which was probably the most surreal thing I've ever experienced in my life.
I bet.
Yep, that is. I remember that. That was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like hold on, let's just poke a hole. What's in there? There's something poking, wanting to get out.
It's not done yet.
Not done yet. Not done.
Yeah, that's I remember when I was little, when my sister was being born, like I remember feeling my mom's stomach and feeling her kicking and everything, but it's been a long time and then since I've experienced that, and it's got to be so surreal.
It's even more so when it's your own. It's not like
Yeah.
a sister or a brother. It's like, that's my child. Oh my God, like
It's
like
actually
what am I
real.
bringing into this world?
It's too late to second guess it now, Barry.
Oh no, yeah, he's coming. He's coming. And from what we hear is, if you have a lot of heartburn, they're born with a lot of hair. So this baby better have Fabio hair, despite my own, because my wife has a lot of heartburn. So she better not be suffering for nothing.
That's awesome. Well, we're gonna be back with our.
Come out like Rapunzel and have like the hair still coming out.
It's still coming.
Well, we'll be back next episode. We're gonna be recording on June 5th, and I think that's still on schedule. I know we're looking at our summer schedule with Barry's son coming in the picture and different traveling and things that I'm going to be doing. So I guess just stay tuned on the rest of summer, but I think we're still on schedule for June 5th for our next episode. So if you've never joined us live, we would love to have you join us live. We stream on YouTube and Twitch. And yeah, just jump in the chat. Let us know all the different thoughts, what you've been playing. We love interacting with you guys throughout the episode. We know some people had to tune out tonight because of in this episode because they didn't want to be spoiled at all about Zelda, which we totally understand. But normally we are not talking spoilers for an hour, so we'd love to have you join us for sure. But thank you guys so much for being here for episode 272. Like I said, we'll be back live on June 5th. Please join us for episode 273. But until then, happy gaming, everybody.
Have a good one.
See you next time.